Playing in a band in the 70s was pretty eventful at times. There was probably a lot of stories I could tell you. The very first gig we did, it was at the Evanston Gardens Memorial Hall. There was this tray that someone had put on top of my amp that had like a jug of beer and several glasses on there, and as I went down to pick up my pick, I knocked the tray over and the jug went on the ground, the beer went all over the floor, glasses smashed, and of course every eye in the place was on Nick Pettina. My name's Nick Pettina. I'm a retired fitter and turner from Holden, where I worked for 37 years. I'm also a musician and a composer. I played in a band in the local circuit in the late 70s, early 80s, a band called Amnesty. And later on I did a little bit of work for Iron Horse, a band that is still around today. Recently did a show at the Theberton Theatre. Yeah, that's kind of me in a nutshell, I guess. From a very early age, I always wanted to play guitar. And I think that passion for me began in grade 7 when a mate of mine bought his acoustic guitar to school, and he got it out at recess and he started playing some chords on it. I think from that moment on I became really inspired to pursue music a little bit, pursue playing the guitar. My love for music probably began in those early years, but the side of it where I started composing music and started to get creative probably didn't happen until the formation of Amnesty. My parents loved music. My parents encouraged me to play an instrument, but they had a very different outlook on what a musician should look like, and it definitely shouldn't look like you know, someone who grew their hair, played on an electric guitar in a band. You know, they always had aspirations of me learning to play the piano accordion, which was kind of a very different image that I had in my head as to you know, what it was to be a musician. So they didn't take too kindly to the notion that their son was going to, you know, play a guitar. So we were on kind of different, we had a different idea of what it was to be a musician between me and my parents, especially my dad. We were on two different cultures. That's probably the best way I can put it. You know, he was very old school, stuck in his ways. He had this image in his head about what it was for, you know, for someone to be in a rock and roll band, to play that type of music. After a short time after our band Amnesty got together, I began composing. The very first song I wrote was a song called One Way Trip to Paradise, closely followed by Green Tea. That song in later years went on to become part of an album that Iron Horse was released in the early 80s. And you know, with that, my parents were, I think, surprised, a little bit proud maybe you know, rethinking the way that they thought about my involvement with music. And I think in a lot of ways Dad was a little bit proud of his son and what he achieved. One of the best concerts, I guess, that we played was in the Baptist churchyard in Gawler, and it was packed. It was just so packed. It was one of the biggest events we'd done. People were spilling out right out into the road, which was closed off at that time of the year. But the most memorable part of that event was not the great crowd and the great show it was and the good response we got, but when I looked to the back of the crowd right to the end, there was my mum and dad. My mum and dad came to see me at this concert, and it just blew me away. It was kind of a little bit of an emotional, kind of a touching feeling, you know, to see my dad back there, you know, and he had this smile on his face, and I'll never forget that, you know. I think it's I think to me that said everything, and to me that meant more than the crowd. It meant more than more than anything. So it was a very special moment, and it was a very special event, and it's probably one of the last shows that we did with Amnesty. It was the biggest and it was the best, so it was awesome. I think in the end, the cultural differences between me and my dad especially came to a point of reconciliation of the way that we both thought about each other's points of views when it comes to the cultural differences between the generation, the generation gap between us. So I think, yeah, there was this point at which, we come to a point of peace about where we sat, the way we felt about the whole music thing that I was involved with.